Afternoon, folks. This is the Elbows Down MotoGP podcast. Yet another YouTube video. Trying things out the last couple of days, different applications and whatnot, cameras. Hopefully, we look a bit sharper.
Yeah, it's only taken a couple of hours. This week we have got some news, obviously. And we're also going to do a bit of a rookie roundup for Moto3. So news-wise, we're going to be talking, obviously, about KTM and their insolvency and what's going on with them. And then, like I say, we'll move on to who we're going to be seeing fresh faces in the paddock next year in 2025. Obviously, we're not going to be seeing any of the riders until February in Moto3 on screen because we're not going to be they've not got any official tests until the beginning of next year. But we can at least talk about who they are, a bit of their background and that sort of thing. Then, KTM, and then, Jimmy, we also want to talk about the new Senna series on Netflix. Not necessarily the Senna series itself, but how that can be translated into MotoGP.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But each day I feel like there's some more news about KTM that's more worrying and more worrying.
Yeah.
It's to be fair, at least if worse comes to worse, I don't think because obviously if you look at the family tree of who owns what, the racing is a separate entity completely, but obviously it is funded by KTM.
Yeah.
And at least this time we know how bad it is. When Suzuki left MotoGP, it was out of nowhere, pretty much. New management and everything. But it is really worrying. Will they find investors? I'm sure they will. Will Red Bull bail them out? Too early to say. But the banks, it turns out the banks' money, the investors' money, could CF Motor help them out? There's all sorts now. Of different scenarios where someone could bail them out, but they'd own a certain percentage, then wouldn't they? And the buybacks and everything. It's just a mess right now.
So the issues started basically. The issue started with one of Pyramid Mobility Group's creditors, basically wanted their loan back, and it was a pretty large sum of money. It was in the hundreds of millions, and that kicked off the whole issue with basically the PMG, the Pyramid Mobility Group. Basically thought, oh my God, we weren't expecting this. And then they basically had no choice but to file for self-administration. Now, self-administration it's a little bit complicated, but basically what self-administration is that it's a European market measure that basically allows for a 90-day effort to reorganise and secure financial backing for any company, which is exactly what KTM and the Pyramid Mobility Group who own KTM, that is exactly what they've done. So basically, they have 90 days starting from when they initially filed the self-administration, which was the end of November. So basically, they have until the end of February to sort out a buyer or to sort out finances, basically. If they don't do that, then the administrators, the creditors will basically go about asset stripping. They'll have to, because it's self-administration, they'll basically have to look at what assets they have that they can get rid of. Now, beginning of this year in March, MV Agusta, it was a big piece of news that Pyramid Mobility Group, I'm just going to call them PMG from now on because I keep tripping over that one. PMG acquired a majority sharehold in MV Agusta, the Italian motorcycle manufacturing company, who we haven't seen in MotoGP for quite some years now. They acquired 50.1% of a sharehold in MV Agusta, and so that was obviously a massive chip for KTM to in their finances. When that happened, then shortly afterwards, the loan was basically recalled. So now that's a big issue that they have. Obviously, the Gas brand, Husqvarna, and a couple of other smaller ones as well are also owned by PMG. There are their assets at the moment that we can see sort of in the immediate area.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't be surprised if one of those brands is either sold straight away or they, or CF Moto, the Chinese brand, could be the ones bailing them out effectively.
Well, I don't know about that, to be honest.
Well,
because
again, no one really knows. It's just another possibility you hear in the Twitter sphere, don't you?
Yeah. The issue with CF Moto is that the issue with CF Moto is one of the big talking points, sort of midway around the year, was a few of the KTM brands, their production motorcycles, where their engines were being produced by CF Moto in China. And when they were being produced by CF Moto, there was, this is not me saying this, is just for argument's sake, is that it was a bit shoddy craftsmanship. There was a huge issue with the camshaft of the engine, a lot of wear in the camshaft, especially on the 790, the 890, and the 901 models of KTM's CF Motos. So that was a huge issue that they had. Another big contributing factor that a lot of people are talking about as well is obviously the pandemic in 2020.
Yeah. People buying bikes left, right, and centre.
Left, right, and centre. Social distancing, but you've got restricted travel. But get yourself a touring bike or something, or anything, and go off and enjoy yourself, and with the joy of social distancing. And obviously, at that point, the manufacturers saw a huge rise in sales, and then obviously as the pandemic drew to a close, the world was everyone was in haywire, with finances and all that sort of stuff, and what's it called?
Well, at the end of the day, look, a lot of, even I saw it where I work. There was an influx of people buying motorbikes, who normally said they wouldn't have even dreamt of buying a bike before. And your KTM Duke range, is a huge range of going up from a 125 all the way up to 1,000cc bikes. So that's the most generic way of putting it to those who don't really care. But this is where the profit comes from, to fund all these different. I mean, like I said, the racing department is a separate entity, but where do you think they get the money from? And all this, they started to produce bikes after this demand in lockdowns.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of bikes that haven't sold. They've got a lot of excess bikes.
Inflation was the word I was looking for.
Yes.
Yeah. Because of inflation after the pandemic, worldwide inflation, people all of a sudden were used to having their disposable income, and then all of a sudden the price of these bikes went up. The bikes weren't getting sold anymore because everyone was going back to work, and everyone was a wee bit worse off, or I'm making a general sweeping statement there, but so there were bikes that weren't being sold, and so big issue for KTM. I mean, already this year there have been 600 layoffs across the three big groups of the Pyramid Village group. So that is everyone involved in market research. That's everyone involved in, I don't know how many of each group, but that's the people involved in the main KTM brand AG section of there. They have there's been layoffs in two big sections throughout the year, probably predicted about 700 layoffs throughout the entirety of the year. So that's obviously a huge thing. It's been something that's been concerning KTM for longer than we've known about, I think.
A lot longer than we've known about, yeah.
Yeah. But the be-all and end-all of it, when they filed for their insolvency a few days ago, was basically almost 3 billion in debt. 3 billion euros in debt. So it's yeah.
I just hope that we look. At the end of the day, this is a MotoGP podcast, and what we really hope for is their racing program carries on. But then again, it's not just the MotoGP team. It's so important that the Moto3, Moto2 programs continue,
and Red Bull rookies.
That's just as important
because they're all KTMs.
Exactly, and look at half the bikes in Junior GP. Most people call CV KTMs, if not more.
Husqvarnas.
Yeah, which is a KTM, exactly. Yeah. So this will be interesting. Next 6 months, it could be really, really interesting. Thank God Pit Byra is a massive racing enthusiast. Otherwise, it might be easier for him to make some snap decisions here if he was just someone who turned up at a company. Like what happened to Suzuki. They had new management at the top. They made a silly decision. Well, of course, we're going to say that we're racing bonkers. and they scrapped the MotoGP program. Whereas obviously Pitbo's going nowhere. He owns everything. He's staying there. That'll be the last thing I think he does. But yeah, we are reading it, and they won't. They have air-owned screens to test. I believe it, a private Jerez test, and then after that, they're not doing anything until Japan. That's it.
But obviously, we've seen that earlier on, before all of this self-administration and insolvency stuff came out in the last month or so. Before that, we knew that Gas would not be in the MotoGP paddock next year. It's now going to be Tech3, KTM. It will be the satellite team, and also the Moto3 and Moto2 teams, which will be Nicky Io's efforts in those categories. So it's going to be a really, really difficult time for KTM. So the Gas brand we're obviously not going to see next year. But one thing that we are assured of, Pit Byra called all of the MotoGP riders and assured them that 2025 is fine. We'll still be racing in 2025. You're all going to keep your jobs. I heard a very similar thing when I was made redundant when the brewery that I worked for went into administration. Yes. So they're all going to be fine. No one's going to get laid off. Don't worry about it. And then a few months later, lo and behold, I was out of a job.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, the same thing doesn't happen to.
They need that. They need that very soon. You don't want to go into the winter thinking, "Oh God, I'm just signed for KTM." I think I'd be more worried if I was Mav and or Nea. Then again, Tech3 is separated. Where do you get the bikes come from? But Pedro will be fine because look, worst comes to worse. Another manufacturer team would pick up Pedro in a heartbeat. It'd become a bidding war probably. But yeah, let's not even think about that now. I just wonder, this Liberty acquirement, that's separate, I know, from, like I said, it's a separate having the racing department or the racing teams where the money comes from the company. I don't think Liberty maybe would bail them out, but they could sure as hell pump money into the racing team's logistics. All the logistic costs and things like that. Another thing before we move on, though, is the KTM engines for 2026. Now, there'll be a freeze at the end of next year's, right? So they have to get their 2025 engine perfect. That's one thing they can't really hold back on. Because as soon as you homologate your 2025 engine, it's frozen, obviously, so everyone can develop the 850s for 2027. So the bikes they start the year on, finish the 2025 year on, will be the engines they use in 2026. So they have to get the 2025 engine right. So, yes, there probably is a lot of holdbacks now on wind tunnel things, aerodynamics, development, anything else, or ride height devices, whatever. They have to get the engine right. Yeah. Surely that'll be one thing I think, no, come on, we need to push that and get this right.
Pit Byra has said that the 2025 bike is ready. It's waiting to go. And basically they're not testing anything else now. That what they've got is what they've got, and that's how it is. Another really worrying thing that Pit Byra said was that basically the 2027, obviously 2027, we've got the new rules, regulations concerning the machines themselves, that the KTM efforts have been halted. So as far as we're concerned at the moment, KTM are no longer producing a 2027 MotoGP bike.
Which is quite worrying. But then, look, for all we know, Suzuki might come back, and they're saying that if the moment's right, they will do. Competition is necessary, I think, for a manufacturer. It's for motorcycle racing. I think competition is. I think maybe not as much as it used to be though. A lot of people who buy bikes come into where I work. I sell motorcycle protective equipment, everything but bikes basically. Now, most of them, I would definitely say most of them, easily more than half, don't even watch MotoGP. Makes no odds what happens on track to them, whereas it used to be a lot different.
Yeah.
That old saying you hear and you say you race Sunday, you sell Monday. That it doesn't happen as much as it used to. But I do think it's important for Suzuki to be in competition anyway. Just as we're going to an era now of where Liberty's going to have the sport. If it does become more mainstream, people think, oh, Suzuki or KTM are involved. They're successful. That's cool. I fancy a bike myself. And TV contracts, that'll be smoothened out by Liberty at some point soon. I think it'd be important for any manufacturer to be ready, because if it works, this is what I've made it. And I made a point about this. This is what we're getting onto with this the Ayrton Senna documentary that's on Netflix right now. I think, how am I linking that to that? Well, yeah. Do you think how does that go from that? Well, if Liberty, it hasn't finished yet. This deal with Liberty isn't finalised yet, anyway. But yeah, being in the sport alone isn't good enough for a manufacturer to sell, I would say, these days. We talked about Suzuki, but if Liberty already owned it and there was a Ride to Survive, and it had been happening since 2018, like F1 has, and it worked, and bikes were more mainstream because of MotoGP, all this, there's a chance maybe that could have... The KTM depths wouldn't have gone as far, but that's massively hypothetical. And again, separate racing entities, separate, I know. But there'd be more investors ready to pick up the bill and the help out, wouldn't there? But I think it's an important point to... It's just... It's going to be like number one in Netflix in a few days. It probably already is. And again, promoting a sport through entertainment.
Yeah.
And put it on... when that happens, more investors are willing to, keep you going or invest and promote you and make everything bigger and grow your team or grow your manufacturing, grow your range. So honestly, Liberty acquiring MotoGP when they're still, they're growing again since Rossi left, but my goodness me, it's needed now more than ever.
100%. I do think it's quite ironic that we are resting our tripod for the recording equipment on a Michael Schumacher book. Just going back very briefly to KTM and possible solutions for them. Obviously, like I said earlier on, they have until the end of February to reorganise and find financial backing, whether that means through asset stripping or from finding a buyer to bail them out, basically. A lot of people, one of the big things that people are saying at the moment is, what about Red Bull? Red Bull, obviously...
The obvious one.
One of the biggest, if not probably is the biggest motorsport sponsor in the world. Think about how many programs they have, not just in motorcycle racing, but obviously from everything from motorcycle racing to car racing to bloody wingsuits, flying squirrels and that sort of thing. A lot of people are saying, well, why don't Red Bull just buy them out? Is that a possibility? Now, I did read something earlier on that said Red Bull had basically said, we're not interested in buying. We're not interested in the Pyramid Mobility Group and buying them and helping them out in that way. So they'll still stay there as a title sponsor, but then they've pretty much written themselves out of the equation for it becoming, for example, like we have a Red Bull F1 team having a solely Red Bull MotoGP team with the engine provided by KTM.
Important point now. I mean, I just had the thought that if Red Bull purchased the MotoGP team, okay, just the MotoGP team, what would that cost them? 10 million, maybe more. I mean, it was what when it was over Lewis Hamilton buying Gresini rumours last year.
Yeah,
it was about 4 or 5 million euros, which doesn't sound like a lot in this current era.
Drop in the water.
A factory team would be different, and all the factory teams, as it's the factory itself, the workshop, and everything. But Red Bull could probably afford that, and then potentially KTM could pick up the bill for the junior categories, your Moto3 bikes for Junior GP or Moto3, and what else? I mean, they could continue doing that. I'm sure Pit Barrow is thinking of all sorts, and then you can have a Red Bull MotoGP team. But yeah, KTM engines, but everything fully funded by Red Bull.
Absolutely.
That would be a lot cheaper than physically buying KTM or a huge chunk of the company.
One thing I've just thought about as well is, of course, we have in Moto3, we have Husqvarna teams, Intact GP. Did you think about it this way? If they had to start going about asset stripping and getting rid of brands such as Husqvarna and Gas, which, as I said earlier on, we're already not going to see them next year in the paddock, really. Gas. Do you think that the seats could then become available for a different manufacturer, i.e. Honda? Because let's face it, I mean, Honda have been in the news a lot recently about the troubles that they're having with their motorsport programs. Everyone knows that Honda are struggling across pretty much all their platforms at the moment. Could we be seeing more rides we will be seeing more seats from Honda in the Moto3 paddock, especially.
I think it would have to be. Yeah, I don't think that's a massive issue for Honda to do that, and they could have, if they get help from IRTA or the FIM financially, I don't know. That remains to be seen, but we don't even know if it's going to go that deep yet. But there's no other manufacturer that makes a Moto3 engine. Chassis, those days are over when Moto3 started, when you had 10 different chassis.
Yeah.
Around a KTM or Honda. It just doesn't work like that anymore. It's become a bit monopolised, which is fine. It's a junior category. As long as everyone's on an equal machinery, then you know who's the best. So I wouldn't really be fussed about that. To avoid being that person who brings up car stuff, no one gives a shit when they watch F3 and F2 that every single car is exactly the same engine and exactly the same chassis. Yeah. Again, on paper, I know there's politics behind some people getting better engines, so that's on paper. It should be exactly the same. But it is nice to have, Honda versus KTM. It gives you some variety, doesn't it?
But then again, yeah, as you're saying, F3, F4 having the same manufacturers. We have that in the Talent Cup series, European Talent Cup, exactly. Northern Talent Cup, Oceanic, Asian.
But then again,
Talent Cups.
We also then forget the authenticity, for lack of a better word. Moto2 and Moto3 used to be 250 and 125 Grand Prix. They're classed as Grand Prix. They're not. It's not now. It literally has been labelled. Now I wrote an article about this about 11 years ago about the fact they are not treated as Grand Prix, unique Grand Prix categories anymore. Where you used to have specialists in. It stayed there because they were paid well, or it's just that was their class. It is literally now just used as a stepping stone.
Yeah, you go to Moto3 to step up to Moto2 to ultimately step up to MotoGP. Yeah, whereas...
But they're still classed as Grand Prix. But yeah, I mean, who really now wants to say, I want to stick in Moto2, I want to be the most successful Moto2 rider of all time?
I mean, I really think that the last specialist in a class that we've seen very recently was John McPhee. Think about that way. The guy was in Moto3 for so long that he got booted out.
Always there or thereabouts, wasn't he? And if you could beat John McPhee, he's always near the front. Yeah.
And he won the last race of his Moto3 career. And he will never be able to go back into Moto3 again because he's too old.
That performance at Sepang was brilliant. Or people like Sam Lowes, who, yes, he always wanted to go back to MotoGP, or before his first, that 1 year he had with Aprilia MotoGP, his ambition was always to go to MotoGP, but he still became, like Tom Lucy, another specialist in Moto2 that stayed there.
Yeah.
Domi Agata. There's quite a few that stay there. Again, I mean, you could say, look, intermediates, best rider ever is obviously Max Biaggi, because statistically he is, and always will be. But it is a shame that doesn't happen anymore. But anyway, we're going away from the point a little bit there, but it doesn't matter.
As is our want on this podcast.
It would be a bit of a shame. You've got Bosco, you've got Calix. And so you've obviously got the forward chassis, which is strange sometimes how that can be really fast, 1 minute and not the next. But and then you've got that's it. There's Honda chassis engine and KTM chassis engine in Moto3, and that's it.
Yeah,
I believe right now, unless I'm missing something there. It's been a long while since we've seen anything else, or FTR or Mahindra chassis. And there used to be a baby Calix chassis Moto3.
Adorable.
Yeah. Anyway, going far afield there. We want to talk about some rookies.
Yeah, so that brings us on nicely to a few new faces in the paddock. Slightly more cheery topic than potentially losing one of our manufacturers in the Premier class and across the whole class in general, across the whole paddock in general. So let's talk about something a bit more exciting. Last year we did the same thing, obviously, in the post and pre-season, as it is. We talked about who we are seeing move up into the Grand Prix paddock. And now that is, this year we've got a Moto2 rookie again. But we're going to talk about the Moto3 rookies for 2025.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about who they are, a bit of their background, some impressive results that we've got from them, and actually in a couple of places a little bit of drama. So I'm going to start off with the fully stripped out and fully rookie Boe Motorsport. So Boe next year both their riders are leaving. So this is Joe Kelso and David Munoz, who, let's remember, couple of weekends ago. His team boss wasn't very happy with him, was pretty pissed off with him, and to be honest, was more than happy to show David Munoz the door. Arguably, a very talented rider, albeit incredibly aggressive, and even the Dorna commentators, who have to be as generic and as bland as possible, even they every now and again voice their opinions on David Munoz. And I've heard them saying several times during practice, qualifying, race, whatever, that's a classic David Munoz move. Oh, of course he's done that. Oh, bloody hell, of course he's wiped someone else out. Classic David Munoz. Anyway, so we're getting a full new rider lineup for the Barrow Motorsport team next year. 2 rookies. One rookie that I've been following pretty closely over the past season, of the 2024 season, Ruche Moodley from South Africa, who I was really, really, really hoping he was going to move up to the Grand Prix paddock there for 2025, and thank God he has, because lovely guy. Not only are we going to have a South African in Moto3, we're now also going to have one in Moto2 and MotoGP, of course. So we've got South African in all 3. It's not just Spanish in all 3 and Italians in all 3. We've now got a South African in all 3.
Thanks to Brad and Darren, we had that for a while. So this is about time. And these guys aren't there because they're different passport. They're fast.
Yeah.
Those of you who watch Red Bull Rookies and Junior GP, you don't need us to tell you that.
No.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can, in a heartbeat, go and see how fast they are and how fast they've been. So as much as for Bowie especially, that is brave. That is brave. Having 2 rookies, still 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years for one of them. So until they're even 20, it's brave these days. But they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine if you can cut it in those other championships, and you can win and you can get podiums and poles. You should be fine.
Yeah. So Ruche is the second oldest of the 6 rookies that we'll be seeing in Moto3 in 2025. So he's 18 in December. So he didn't technically qualify for the regulations that state that if you come in the top 3 in Red Bull Rookies or FIM Junior GP, you can automatically move up if you're only 17. So Ruche is going to be 18 in December, and he moves up to Moto3 with the Barrow Motorsport team. His teammate will be Cormac Buchanan, the number 14. So he's the first, and this is, I love my statistics. He's the first rider from New Zealand since Simon Crafar in 1999. So this is the first Grand Prix rider. Obviously, Simon Crafar in 1999 was riding on the 500s. But Cormac Buchanan will be the first New Zealand rider that we've seen since 1999 in the Grand Prix paddock as a whole. So I'm really, really excited to see what Cormac can do.
It's almost a shame that Simon's gone to be an FIM steward, because if he hadn't, you'd probably see him. Hey, Cormac, that was really good. He'd be tutoring all the time.
You can't do Simon Crafar.
No, I can't. Yeah. That's only because I'm on the coke and you're on the beer. Well, you probably can do that. But
Cormac, great ride.
I feel like he'd be a good rider tutor, but obviously I don't think you can do that while you're an FIM steward somehow.
Wow.
But yeah.
So we'll talk more about Simon Crafar at some point, because he's replacing Freddie Spencer. Thank God. Anyway, so Cormac Buchanan is a really interesting guy to look up. Look him up. Go on the Red Bull website. He basically did a load of racing in New Zealand. Topped all of the New Zealand Superbike. Years. No, but it's the New Zealand Superbike. He was in New Zealand Superbike for a couple of years, and he moved up the category. I think from the 300 to the 600s, and in 2 years consecutively, he broke the lap record at every single track that he raced at. So he's fast. He knows what he's doing. So he's from New Zealand Superbike heritage, growing up, and then now he's obviously in the FIM Junior GP. He finished this year last year's season, 2024 season, P6 overall. So this guy is fast, and I think he might be one of these slow burner riders that he might sort of struggle with Moto3 at first, but I think that in time he'll be fast. I think he could be, maybe another Jacob Ralston sort of thing. I think that he's getting a pretty decent ride. He's not at the lower end of the KTMs in Moto3 really. Boe have had some pretty decent results this year. Joel Kelso has really impressed on the KTM this year.
He signed very early for 2025, which is good, so he'll be there.
Because he was originally Prustel, wasn't he? Very nearly didn't have a ride when Prustel followed.
He probably thought, just in case I have a lap this year, I'll get a contract signed, so at least I have something banked if they want to buy me out my contract. But no, I'm quite excited by Buchanan. Another hats off to Boe. We don't know how. I don't even know if any of these two riders, by the way, are bringing any money, or they have money from the parents or sponsor coming in. We need to look at some of the logos they'll bring next year. Or Donna and Ursa funding, which I don't care about, frankly, because as long as their results stack up, who cares, right? And we need more nationality.
As far as I'm aware, Cormac Buchanan comes from a pretty blue collar background. I don't think he's necessarily one of the riders that's there money wise. You think of, and this is going to sound totally unfair to people that don't necessarily know, but riders like Noah Detweiler and that sort of thing.
I would say that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think Cormac Buchanan is necessarily. I don't think at all he's one of these riders that doesn't deserve to be there. He's there because of money at all. I think this guy has got some serious talent, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing Cormac Buchanan next year. But I'm also really looking forward to seeing Ruche Moodley as well. He's great friends with the Binders. Goes out training with them. I think they're also doing something in South Africa. They're having a sort of meet and greet kind of thing. So if you're in South Africa, look that up. Sort of thing I'd like to go to, because I imagine that the Binder brothers are good fun to have a few pints with. And when Ruche turns 18 in December, I'm sure he'll be a good laugh to have a few pints with as well. Right, and that brings us on to Valentin Peroni, who is an Argentine rider. He'll be moving up from the Red Bull rookies next year. So Valentin Peroni is Argentine, as I said. He's another one of these riders that hail from South America, similar to David Alonso. Was born in Spain, but hails from Argentina. So good to see another South American in the paddock, because obviously with the amazing success of David Alonso, and obviously Diogo Moreira in Moto2, his cracking Moto2 rookie season, it's great to see some South Americans doing really well in Grand Prix. So Valentin Peroni, he'll be replacing Danny Holgado, who is of course moving up to Moto2 next year. He's 16 at the moment. He's 17 in December. He's one of these riders that is moving up to Moto3 despite only being 17, and that's because he finished P3 overall in the Red Bull rookies in 2024. We struggle quite a bit with trying to find a lot of facts about certain riders, because the top tier riders, they've all got Wikipedia pages, they've all got loads of background information, there's loads of stories about them, articles and stuff which have written about them. But with these rookies that are coming up, Red Bull rookies, talent cups and all that sort of stuff, junior GP, it's quite hard to find any information on them really, apart from their social media. But one of the things that I do like that Red Bull do is when they do a rider profile. Now, some of them aren't necessarily up to date, but Peroni's is pretty up to date. And he said that one of his favourite races that he ever had, and one of his most difficult races he ever had, was in Barcelona in 2018. Barcelona's where he's from, so I guess he's got a lot of track time there as well, so he knows the circuit really well. But he won from pit lane, and we know quite a few riders that have won from pit lane in junior categories before that have. So I think he's going to be one of the ones to watch for entertainment purposes.
There's only a few, but we know who they are.
Yes.
So if you're that special, and I can hear his name being yelled at with Red Bull Rookies TV now. Valentin Peroni.
Matt Dunn.
Yeah. Good commentator, to be fair, but I can.
If you take your volume down, he's all right.
You are a
love it.
sod. But
no, he's quite shrieky. So if you've got earphones in, he's like, "Oh my god, it's Peroni!"
To be fair, I would be, and then all of a sudden my voice goes, oh no. But yeah, he's rustled some feathers and he's very fast. So honestly, it's one of the best rookie lineups in Moto3 for a few years, I would say.
Definitely, especially with,
and they're all fast. They're not. I'm not saying there's, they weren't fast last year. I'm just saying there was a few pay riders who were quick, but not all the front runners that deserve to move up.
Yeah.
I'm.
There's quite a lot of amazing talent moving up. I think we've followed all of the guys that have moved up to Moto3 for 2025. And honestly, some of them I'm really happy that are there. Some of them I'm sort of like, ooh, a little bit of a Mr. Billy Big Bollocks is turning up, and that man is Maximo Kiles, or Kies, or how you pronounce it. So he's going to be replacing David Alonso, who's moving up to Moto2 next year. Maximo Kies is going to be riding for CF Moto Aspa. He's a Spanish rider. He's 16 years old at the moment. So he's going to be turning 17 on the 19th of March, which is after Argentina. So he's not old enough. But I was speaking to our friend Ryan about this, and he said something on the lines of that because of his 2023 performance in Red Bull Rookies, he's allowed to move up and not suffer the same rules as everybody else.
It's basically the rules being changed for him.
When have we seen this before?
Fabio Quartararo. So, if those of you didn't know, the rules were changed at the start of the 2015 Moto3 World Championship. Fabio Quartararo had signed a contract to ride for the Estrella Galicia Moto3 team. It doesn't exist anymore. Now, that was because he dominated Junior CV, now called Junior GP. He dominated in 2013 and 2014. He was in another league, and so it was pointless to have him in another year.
Yeah.
So the rules were changed so Fabio could compete. Now, you could say Kiles is exceptionally talented, and he is probably one of the next. He could be a generation talent. In terms of stats, he's not quite Paqueras and Rueda cleaned up, maybe a bit more. But Kiles has got that fire. He's absolutely got that fire. So this is the thing. When you have something that happens as bad as a fatality, and you want everyone 18, I knew eventually that will ruin. Well, not ruin some careers, but then parents or people around a rider who is so ready and dominating, he's got to wait another year till he is 18. Bear in mind, Fabio Quartararo was 15 when he started the Moto3 Championship in 2015, which is insane when you think of it now. But that was the rule. That was the rule that was changed. And now we've had to go back to that similar sort of thing. But Kiles has not been the most cleanest rider.
No, he is not.
In these junior categories.
Well,
that's going to have to be snapped out of soon.
Yeah, look back to the second race at Mugello in Red Bull Rookies this year, 2024. We saw some, 2021...
weaving and swiping, wasn't it?
Sort of weaving that, was outlawed in Moto3, you're not allowed to weave, all that sort of stuff. And we saw some absolutely horrific riding from Maximo Kiles, where he came out of the last corner onto the straight, onto the start-finish straight, swept right across and clipped the front tyre of Richard Moodley, who then lost his balance and eventually crashed in front of a load of other riders that could have easily collected him. Fortunately, Moodley managed to walk away from that one. But for that, Max Kiles was issued. Well, he basically was told to sit ass and out.
Yeah.
That was his penalty. He was not allowed to ride it. He got a one race ban.
Just because you snap that out at a young age, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that was the right call, frankly. Some people might have said that was a bit harsh, but then Ruth Ridley's there in the middle of the track, as you said, with oncoming riders. So, Kiles has got a lot to learn, and you can't be doing that in the World Championship level anymore. If you watch scenes from, as you said, 2021 or before, some of the swiping that was going in Moto3, I think that sort of died. The last time it really happened, that was 2021 in Austin, where it was a horrific crash. Now that sort of stuff doesn't
Dennis Onshu, Alcoba,
you can do it if it's in
Pedro Acosta was involved in that. Yeah.
If they're in the tow, it's different. When someone's trying to shake a slipstream.
Yeah.
because they're so obviously next to them.
Yeah.
But sorry, obviously behind them, weaving like that is okay because they're behind you. But when you aren't sure with them and you try and shake them, you could do that, and that's unacceptable. I don't care how young you are. A race ban was necessary for Keyless. So, but I'm excited to see him in the sport next year.
100%, yeah.
Because it could be like Munoz to a degree. You know, that sort of fiery rider who doesn't care, will just shove it up the inside whenever there's any opportunity worth going for or not going for. I'm sure there'll be a lot of sitting riders up, but I'll be interested to see how fast he adapts compared to the other rookies, or if he's the slowest, or could be quickest.
Yeah. Some other rookies that are coming up at the moment, obviously we've seen a lot of one of them towards the end of the end of the 2024 season, Eddie O'Shea, who of course replaced Josh Watley at Indonesia, and then for the rest of the season, as well as Josh Watley has now moved to European Moto2.
Not doing too badly either.
Not doing too badly, and his teammate was a champion as well, so not a bad ride, of course. Eddie O'Shea, yes, we'll be seeing him full time in the Grand Prix paddock, racing for the MLAV Fleet Safe Honda team, so Michael Laverty's team. There's been quite a lot of controversy about the MLAV rides, haven't there? Because I think if we just from counting it now, I think we've got about 6 riders that have turned down the MLAV ride. And one of the things that we're going to talk about in a different episode, probably next week, unless someone wants to come on and talk to us about something else, which of course we're very open to. We want to talk at some point about riders who are currently in the paddock that are moving to different teams and also different manufacturers. You know, for example, Scott Ogden, who is leaving the MLAV Fleet Safe Honda team and is moving to CIP Green Power on the KTM for 2025. So Eddie O'Shea will be has already replaced Josh Watley. He did sustain an injury in his metacarpals at Indonesia during a qualifying session in 2024. So we didn't see him for that race and the race after, but then we did see him afterwards. And of course, he had that the classic thing that I can think of straight away of Eddie O'Shea at the end of the 2024 season was when he was the only rider to go out on wet tyres or on rain tyres. But anyway, so
full-time rookie. I just hope that MLAV can sort themselves out. I'm not afraid to say that they need some more consistency, but also just a better structure of management.
They need better direction.
Direction.
Exactly.
I mean, how can you make mistakes like that at Grand Prix level? I don't know.
It's insane.
We know that look, we know what they've done for Scott Ogden and Josh Watley. Their Grand Prix careers have made them who they are today. But Scott Ogden's been messed around a few times through no fault of his own, whether it be sent out in qualifying at the wrong time, and you haven't got enough time to go over the line when there's time left to set a bloody lap.
Something classic like that. And then what was the issue that he had? I can't remember where it was, where he'd gotten straight through to Q2 and then just never went out and set a time.
I think didn't happen. Yes,
Where was that? That was ridiculous.
I got a feeling that happened more than once, actually. But yeah, it needs to be better direction. That's the word.
100%, especially because this is a British-led team. You know,
it could be lack of funds. To be honest.
So for us, we look at riders like Josh Watley, Scott Ogden, now Eddie O'Shea, and think, come on, there's got to be something going on here, because Scott Ogden is a cracking rider. We know that he's got natural talent. We know that from his junior category stuff. We'll see what he can do on the KTM. That's basically what we're going to say. But that's for another episode. We're going to talk about riders who are moving from team to team, and in Scott's case,
established riders.
Established riders already in the Moto3 paddock.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eddie O'Shea will be riding for MLAV full time for 2025. So yeah, good to see what he can do. Hopefully he can. Hopefully there'll be a bit of a team reshuffle, and he can actually get some work done and get some results. But so far, I know it's a bit cruel to say he didn't score any points in the last 3 races.
Yeah, but then he also, as soon as he got off that bike in Indonesia, he stepped himself to the moon and injured himself.
He was pushing.
So yes, he wasn't scared to push. So yeah, I just hope it works out for him, and I hope he doesn't have a muddled up year that MLAV, because of MLAV. Well, I think they're their second rider. They're still looking for him officially. We're hearing it's almost there, but I think that's where some money's going to have to come from for that team. But
I think the big rumor at the moment is the ride is going to David Almanza, who will basically be on MLAV machinery.
Yeah, I don't get this.
I don't get this because I've not seen anything like this before. MLAV machinery, but a Leopard team.
Yeah, I don't get. That's going to be. I
think what we need to do for this thing is get some inside expertise and get a guest. That I think we need to call in one of our guests and give us a hand with that one. So possibly next week, what we'll do is call on one of our friends to give us a bit of a hand with that, because it's a little bit complicated. And to be honest, I'd rather
something I've never heard of that. What is it? It's just going to be a little Leopard sticker on a dark blue bike. Yeah. I have no idea, but we'll have to wait and see.
Or is it going to be a Leopard bike that's incredibly slow? We'll see.
Last rookie.
Last rookie is, of course, the Red Bull rookies and the Junior GP champion, Alvaro Carpe. The number 83, who we did actually see at the Solidarity Grand Prix as a wildcard rider. He made his Moto3 debut at Barcelona at the end of the 2024 season. Didn't score any points, but he'll be riding for Red Bull KTM IO, obviously Nicky IO's squad.
People say Aki. Yes, it's because Aki's moving up. So
Aki's moving up to MotoGP.
Nicky will be running it next year.
Yeah, so Nicky will be losing his hair the same way as his father very, very soon. So another Spanish rider. He's as I've just said, he's the Junior GP Red Bull Rookies 2024 champion. He's only 17, which is is fine because he's done so well that he's going to negate the 18 and over rule for Moto3. Previously been in European Talent Cup, and bloody hell has he had some great races this year. Carpe 2023 last year came second in Red Bull as well, Red Bull Rookies. He had an amazing race at Misano last year, which basically solidified his second place in the world standings for Red Bull Rookies. And
where else was he going to go other than IO?
So let's think about riders that we've had recently, rookies moving up that have won not just Red Bull Rookies but also the Junior GP. We've had, of course, Angel Piqueras and Jose Antonio Rueda. I mean, Jose Antonio Rueda set the mark, didn't he? I mean, he was the first rider to finish first in the standings for both categories.
Yeah. First person to do the double.
I mean, imagine racing in 2 championships and being a champion in both of them in the same year.
I mean, the calendar's short, but it only happens at junior level now.
Yeah.
It's not like you see what Freddie Spencer did, 250 champion and 500 champion in the same year. You never see that anymore, and you won't ever see that again at World Championship level. But yeah, you're right, that's a good point. It's only in the junior categories where you see that happen.
But it's 3 years on the trot now. We had Jose Antonio Rueda, 2022, Angel Piqueras, 2023,
and now Alvaro Carpe.
And now Alvaro Carpe in 2024. So 3 years on the trot, we have had a champion in both.
What a line of a rookie next year. It really
unbelievable.
is.
So those guys again. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Boe will do next year. The Boe team. I love the fact not only have they're the only team that have got a complete rookie lineup, but they've got a bloody. They've got a South African and a bloody New Zealand. They've got a Kiwi. I mean, that's amazing. We've not, like I said earlier on, we've not had a Kiwi since Simon Crafar in '99 on the 500. So
that is bragging rights, isn't it? For the New Zealand contingent. I mean, I can't remember if there will have been someone before Simon Crafar, but that's way outside the modern era. So that's brilliant. And fair play to Boe Motorsports. I hope it pays off for them. I hope their crash damages aren't going through the roof next year. I hope. I mean, those riders have just as much calibre, in my opinion, as the other ones there. I mean, Carpe probably on paper, because he's the champion in both those series, will be the strongest rookie. We'll have to see what happens in some testing. As always, we won't know until round one in Thailand next year.
And let's not forget as well that in Junior GP, Eddie O'Shea finished P10 overall, despite the fact that he made the switch over to Moto3 in the final Grand Prix of the year as well. So he's going to be good. I really, really hope that they look after him. And I really hope that he's not just going to be one of these riders that we just see at the back all the time. I think it's a bit of a potential, though.
We'll have to see. Eddie O'Shea's been fast. His results in Junior GP weren't as impressive as Scott Ogden's.
No.
We'll have to see.
Better than Watley's, though. So.
Yes. Yeah. Josh Watley was there at the right time with his age, and I'm glad he's being looked after now. But I think Eddie O'Shea can. It depends. It depends who's around him. The category next year is going to be extremely strong. But Eddie O'Shea's got a bit of a head start as well, so we'll have to wait and see.
I think Moto3 next year is going to be really interesting because we've lost a lot of the big title favourites. You know, at the start of the year, we always think of the likes of Danny Holgado,
Sasaki,
Ivan Ortola,
who left the start of this year,
and they're all but you know, Ivan Ortola and
Foggia's back.
Foggia's back.
So you could have.
We could have a little section on Dennis Foggia's a rookie in Moto3 this year.
And then Foggia coming back. I mean, look, he's been out a year or two, so obviously
2 years.
2 years been out. So the experience thing, I don't know you can't really class it as a category expert now unless he's immediately fast again. A bit like how long it's taken Darren Binder to be fast again, coming back to Moto2. Yes, now and again sometimes Darren Binder could be P6 or P5 or in the top 3, and then all of a sudden starts drifting back as the race goes on.
But the difference with Darren Binder is that he went from Moto3 to MotoGP and then to a category.
Sorry, beg your pardon.
He'd never been in before.
He was never in Moto2.
He was never in Moto2.
And that's always, beg your pardon, that was the category that everyone says it's harder to move up from Moto3 to Moto2. So yeah,
I think it's definitely got to be the hardest category is Moto2, definitely. And we will be talking about obviously the Moto2, the new Moto2 rookie as well next week. So we'll be doing that. But yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything that we wanted to talk about in this particular episode. I want to thank you once again for not just sticking with us, you guys that have been with us on Spotify over the last 18 months, but for then, giving us views on YouTube. And as you said earlier on, before we started recording, we've actually got more views on YouTube than we have any of our Spotify
more
episodes.
Than double.
And that's literally just from the episode that we put out first. So fantastic. So thank you ever so much, everybody, for watching and supporting us. I know that every now and again we do make a couple of little mistakes here and there, but then again, we're here because we're fans. We're not, necessarily.
And I'm not used to this. I don't really know what to do. My hands are hard to sit. So yeah, just bear with us as we get used to it. I'm doing it again. But yeah. I know that I normally join Alex with a bit of a beer as well, but I'm doing some working out.
He's off to do exercise, and I'm going down the pub. Yeah. Classic.
I'll finish my exercise and then go to the pub anyway.
Yeah,
maybe.
Nice. Anyway, wherever you are in the world, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, folks.
We'll see you again soon. See you next week.
Bye.